Welcome to Raising the Flipping Bar, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned real estate investors. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and I'm the CEO of Elevation. We're a real estate investment company based right here in Denver, Colorado. We'll dive into smart investment strategies, market insights, and essential tips for scaling your real estate ventures. Whether you're making your first investment or your 100th investment, this podcast is your blueprint for success in the ever-evolving world of real estate investing. Get ready to elevate your real estate game and begin your journey with me. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and I am very excited. We've got two fantastic human beings here as our guests. The cool thing is they're super smart investors, they're smart real estate agents, they're smart general contractors and construction background. They're also Elevation Academy alumni. So welcome, Jordan and Chris, to the show.
Hey, Derek, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have you guys here. The cool thing is we're talking about this off camera, but you guys are, as of right now, I'm going to make this competitive and you didn't know this, but you're the number one team of level of success of people within the academy right now, because we're going to dive into all the things you guys are doing, but you guys are crushing it. So how does it feel just in general to be just kind of so much further along than when we first started here, even 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like it's a work in progress still. Just getting my feet wet in it, but I'm excited to see kind of the potential of it. There's a big path forward, and just excited to see where it goes. And doesn't feel like I'm super successful in it yet, but also making the strides towards it feels successful. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, well said. What do you think, Chris?
I had a little bit of real estate experience before Jordan kind of got into the flipping with me at the same time. Doing wholesaling is what I was doing. But yeah, it feels really good I always have this analogy I like to think of as like fear is a compass of where I need to go.
I like that.
And so I was afraid to do flipping because I thought, I don't know how to do all the stuff. I don't know plumbing and the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so we would, wholesale out all these deals. And then I'd see these flippers and I'm like, is it that hard?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And I can figure it out. And so to have went towards the fear of what's going to happen and we're going to lose money. Is it all going to go, all the things, to walk into that and realize it's okay. And actually I'm pretty good at this. And this is exactly as good as you thought it would be.
Good.
And so it feels really good.
No, and that's great context. And what I really want to give to our audience is we'll talk about the great synergies that you guys had together as a team, but I would love to maybe backtrack a little bit and let's talk backgrounds. So maybe Jordan, let's start with you. Give us an idea of your background before the academy, and then we'll jump into future stuff. But kind of, you guys have unique backgrounds and you have perfect skill sets. So maybe just share a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I mean, the long version, born and raised Golden High School.
Okay.
Went to Golden High School, went up to CSU for construction management.
Nice.
So kind of had the big picture construction background, did a couple internships with a couple big commercial companies, stuff like that. And then out of college, went and worked for DT Construct. We're a local Golden contractor, anything from handyman to home build on the residential side, and then commercial TI on the commercial side. And the main reason I took that job is I did have an interest in real estate, and I wanted to have the kind of the construction background going into real estate when I was ready for it. And so that's been really, really huge. I've been on the estimating and sales side for the last 6 years. I'm leaving my position at the end of this year to kind of pursue real estate full time.
Love it.
But having that construction knowledge and understanding the language, understanding how a house is built from step to step, I think is going to be super, super valuable, especially in the flipping world. I'm curious to see how it applies to other forms of real estate investing, but flipping specifically, I think it's a big passion for me, like having the construction background and enjoying that side of it, but then applying it for myself instead of for a company. Super excited for. But yeah, I think having that construction background and like really diving into that first will give me a really good foundation for flipping moving forward. Just kind of having the project management side, the general construction side. Yeah. It's kind of the background of it.
Well, and that's cool. And I think the fun thing about hearing that you are leaving DT Construct, and a little bit of background for the rest of our audience too, is we got to know each other because we hired your company to build out the Broadway Collective. So we worked intimately with the whole DT team, which was fantastic, built our co-work space and obviously this beautiful studio that we're sitting in. So it's cool to kind of see you come full circle. But the other fun thing is that it's another elevation pelt on the wall of people that were able to quit their full-time job. And I think yours is a unique position because it's a family business. I think some people are like dying to get out of it. I think you have this amazing natural progression of working towards your goals, which is really cool. But I think we're now at 8 people who have quit their jobs, like good lucrative jobs, not like I was doing Uber Eats and now I can do real estate, like people that were in really good aspects of construction and real estate, which is super cool to hear about. So I love that background, and kind of seeing where you've been going. It's been sweet to watch in person.
Totally. And it's interesting because I definitely thought of DT as kind of a career for me. Like you said, it's a family company. My father-in-law started it and owns it. And so like a part of me was thinking like, maybe I'll stick with that long-term and own this company one day. And fortunately for me, like, I feel like God's pushing me in this real estate direction. I feel like that's kind of where my passion lies, and like the ability to do stuff for myself and that kind of thing, I think will be really good for me.
Cool.
So it's been really interesting kind of feeling that push pull of like, do I stay with kind of the easy route where I have a leg in this thing and I could be really successful at it, or do I jump off and try this other thing and like follow my passion a little bit more? And so that's what I'm doing. Yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah, no, that's great. And props. I think some people call that the golden handcuffs, where you're right. You have this trajectory. You could fast forward 10 years in the future and have really good things going. So I commend you. I kind of had the same thing when I left the media business. People thought I was insane. They're like, you're leaving this good job and you're making good money. And that first year was scary. It was like I made 30% of what I made, and then I made about 80% the next year. And then I felt like I made about 250% year 3. So like it takes that time, but it's cool to see like that transition.
It's a big leap, especially with a young family. I got a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. And so like, there's an element to like, do you leave the security to take the risk? But at the same time, like life is so short. Like if I can adjust my lifestyle to be around my kids more and figure out how to make it work in the interim, like that's something worth doing. And so I really feel like that's an opportunity with real estate that I can have, where I can be my own boss, adjust my own schedule, be around my kids more while at the same time having the opportunity to make more money doing it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, and I want to kind of pivot to you, Chris, and share with our audience about your background, because you have an equally as unique, but also complementary background. So kind of give us, you spent time in corporate world, you're doing fun things in real estate, and now you're into flipping. So give our audience your background.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of to go back, I, in school growing up, just like really had a hard time because I was always like, what is the point of all this?
Yeah.
Like, well, how am I going to use this? And I remember like as a very little kid, my mom shared this with me recently, that I might have been in like second grade. She said like, he's really smart, but he goes too fast and he makes mistakes. Because I was trying to like I just wanted to go. And so sitting there and listening. And so I think that translated to corporate America. Like some people are just great at school. Some people are great at working at a corporation and they love it. And they love the stability and the structure of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just the opposite of that. And so for many years, I was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Okay.
And so working corporate America, and I saw this Sean Terry ad pop up.
Oh, yeah.
He's a wholesaling guru guy. And it was like somebody saying how they were wholesaling from the beach in Thailand. And I was like, what is this?
Yes.
What is this?
Tell me more.
And so I was maybe a year into working in corporate. I bought this course and I was so obsessed with the idea of acquiring freedom to live my life the way I want to. And, probably romanticizing of like the beach in Thailand. It's not quite like that necessarily, but that was enough to drive me forward. And I mean, I was waking up at like 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep because I wanted to learn all this and like obsessively trying to learn wholesaling. Did that for a few years, thought about giving up. This doesn't work. I remember Googling like, is wholesaling illegal? Is wholesaling a scam?
Right.
Is Sean Terry a scammer?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like, this can't be, it's too good to be true.
True.
And so started wholesaling. I think my first deal, it took like 6 months. I had to extend the contract all these times and got it done. I think I made $3,500 at the end. And like, it just was like a horrible situation overall.
And what year was that? Like, when did you start wholesaling, for context?
Maybe 2017 time. And then was like, I'm giving this up. Had another deal in the pipeline. It ended up closing. And then all of a sudden I had like $5,000 more in my bank account. And it's just, when you're used to getting like 1,800 every 2 weeks,
right? And
then you see $5,000 and you're like, wait a second, what is this?
That gets good.
So ultimately was on the path to like maybe leave my job, maybe stay. I got as high as I could go in the corporate America.
Okay.
So similar with that golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who had never worked for anyone a day in his life, I was talking to him and I was like, I'm just worried if I quit my job and like I fail at this real estate thing, like, what am I going to do? And he's like, could you go get a similar job paying a similar amount? And I was like, yeah, probably. I could probably get an even better job. Right. And he's like, so you actually have nothing to risk.
Yeah. It's good perspective.
I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't. And so the next day I went in and I said, hey, I'm doing this real estate thing, and then stumbled through it. And now I've built a company where, we do quite a bit of wholesale deals per year, probably, depending on the year, somewhere between 60 and 80 deals. So
Okay.
pretty large volume. We
Yeah.
do some virtual wholesaling. I started with virtual wholesaling, which is when you, for the listeners.
Yeah, define that for us.
Yeah, so that's when you live in one city, but you do wholesaling in another city. A lot of people that live in these big metropolitan areas, your New Yorks, your LAs, your Denvers, they will invest in, in Ohio, in Indiana, stuff like that. So we started there. We had to get our process really dialed of, sales process, processing leads and all that stuff. And so we built it up to where it is now, but never really did any flips. Maybe I had one where like I would, contribute some money, but I was not involved in any of the construction side. I never really went to the houses, and they were in the Midwest and I was not living there.
Okay.
And then, was like, I gotta look into this flipping thing. And then ultimately went to your academy.
Yeah.
And that was, just the Elevation Academy happened. And then shortly after that, me and Jordan, we met at the academy, hit it off, played golf together, and started a men's group together. And were we already doing the flip?
No. We were doing the men's group for probably 6 months before.
Prior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we kind of built up enough trust, and like the partnership side of flipping, like you have to have a lot of trust there. So the men's group was really important for us, having that really solid foundation of like how to communicate with each other, what are each other's strengths and weaknesses, that kind of deal. And I think that's ultimately worked out really, really well for us. But yeah, we were doing the men's group for a handful of months before we did.
Oh, okay. That makes sense, because I was wondering how, literally for our audience, you guys sat next to each other. And so first I thought, okay, that's like insane serendipity, but there's a little bit of context behind that where you knew of one another.
Oh, no. So sorry. We met at the Elevation Academy.
Oh, okay.
Then I started the men's group, and I'm a little confused about when we did what, but our first time meeting was at Elevation.
Was at the academy. You didn't know each other.
And I just,
remember, you're both front row guys. So I remember that. Yes. Well done.
And like in my head, I was the contractor, he was the wholesaler.
Yep.
Let's make a team here. And so then I invited him to go golfing with Travis and I think one of your guys' agents at the time.
Yeah.
And just to kind of get to know each other better. And then Chris was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting up this men's group. Like, would you be interested? And at first I was like, it's a great networking opportunity and get to know this guy better. Maybe we can do a couple deals or whatever. And then it turned into something way bigger and better than that. And then the flip was kind of a byproduct of it.
Nice.
And then now we're both kind of growing in it. So
yeah, I think that was the fun thing for us to see is that, you're right. Literally, you were sitting next to one another and we're in the classroom and I'm telling people like, hey, there's business that gets done here. Like this could potentially change your life, either just getting better systems or giving you the courage to actually do it. Especially both you guys, you had so much more experience than a lot of our other alumni, but you weren't doing flipping. So it's cool to kind of see it come together. And then now let's talk a little bit about your first deal. And then the cool thing is we actually had an interview a while ago, and I'm excited to have you guys on the podcast because you've done so much more, but maybe give us a little bit of a rundown of the deal. Maybe if Chris, you want to kind of talk numbers side of things, and Jordan, you want to talk about project management and the fixtures and finishes and how maybe you use some of the academy stuff to help formulate your plan. But let's talk numbers because I think that's important for audience to kind of get on your first deal and dates too, like time of year and stuff.
I think that's where the wholesaling helped because analyzing deals was something that I'd been doing for years at that point. We bought a house in Applewood, which is a neighborhood in Golden, really, really good neighborhood.
Yeah, great neighborhood.
And that's one of the things that I always look for is that I want to see a lot of pluses versus not a lot of red flags, right? I don't want to be near a main road.
Yep.
I don't want to back up to something weird.
Yep.
I don't want to have like a lot that has like a sloping hill down the back. That's a reference to a recent deal that I helped. Jordan did. But anyways, $575 was the purchase price.
Okay.
What was our rehab on it? It's like
130.
130. Okay. And we listed for $825.
We listed for $850, sold for $830.
Sold for $830.
It was the week we listed the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I remember that.
I made it a little tough to get the ARV that we wanted to, but
24 showings, but one offer.
Okay. And when did you start the project? So we can kind of put timelines around this too. Like what month roughly?
Got it end of August, I believe.
Okay.
It was an 11-week project.
Yeah, that's good.
Like we flew for what I know about construction. Like it was a big rehab. We kind of gutted the whole inside, remodeled it from beginning to end, redid some stuff in the backyard, painted the house, that kind of stuff. But yeah, 130 over 11 weeks. We were under contract in like 3 or 4 days. And ultimately we decided, we were kind of tossing back and forth the 20,000 under asking offer. Do we take that? Do we hold it? And I think at that point we're like, let's just take this school lesson, make a little bit of money, try not to push our luck and like just take the 830 and walk away. And
And also the just going back to the deal side of
Yeah.
things, there was no comps for appraisal we were worried about, and we had a conventional buyer.
Okay.
So just knowing like the highest comp was like 775 and we were 75K above that.
Right.
And so we were like, well, it might not even appraise.
Well said.
So we're like, do we take this or do we wait? And also, like you said, we just wanted to get a win under our belt too. And a little bit of money. I think we made just under 60 that we split. So, you know, for your first one to not lose money and to put 25, 27K in your pocket was pretty nice.
Well, and the cool thing that I want our audience to really key in on is you're right. When you said Applewood and then you said 575, like that's a cheap price for Applewood. So part of me gets really excited because you're like, oh my gosh, we're in a super good area at a low price point, which should create crazy demand. But the time of year, kind of clips your feet out from under you a little bit. But then you're also resetting the market. So I think that was really, really smart and strategic. And our audience really needs to listen into that, yeah, sometimes best case scenario is you have our ARV or after repair value, your fixed up flip number, and you can kind of set your price based on that. You really push the envelope. And so you would have gone backwards anyways, potentially, because appraisers are not going to stick their neck out there and, have some record setting number for that square footage. So that was really smart.
I think that's a big, when I'm looking at deals, I was just talking to Jordan in the car about this, is like sometimes when the comps are weird, it can be good.
True.
For you, but you got to know what you're looking at, obviously. Like if I've got a house and it's like the comps are like 1,000 square feet smaller and 1,000 square feet bigger, and we're right in the middle.
Yeah.
And they're not really updated, but then the one is like super updated. It's like, there's something here for me to maybe be 100,000 higher, than maybe that last comp, that even if I sold it at that comp, we'd still make money. Right. Like I want to have upside. And so when the comps are a little weird, if you can see through it, as sometimes you find an opportunity and then comes list day and you're like, well, let's list it for 1.1 instead of 1 million.
Yep.
And then, you've got people calling after it and you're like, wow, it paid off. And then there's other times where, you think it makes sense and maybe you miss something and, you end up not winning as big or, you get a break even or something like that. But to me, it's worth swinging at those ones where you're going to make, over $100,000, $200,000 on a flip, where it was funky to where it scared people from wanting to buy those deals. Like the 575 Applewood, because there 775 was the max, there's not enough spread there to really do a full flip.
Right.
And people were like, well, will people buy these ranches if they're nice? There hasn't been any fixed up. And now as soon as 875 was sold shortly after that.
Yep.
So for context, I know we're throwing out a lot of numbers. 45K above ours. Right. They literally copied our exact design.
Oh, really?
Same house.
It's good flattery.
Yeah. So sometimes being the first one in the door, like you said, can be really good, and you can set a new standard for the neighborhood. But comes with risks like anything else. You got to really know what you're looking at.
There's a big element to location with that.
Well said. Yeah.
Like Applewood, like great yard backed up to a park. Everyone wants to be in Applewood. There's a more cost-effective side of Applewood, and then there's the really, really costly side of Applewood with like all the custom houses and the multi-million-dollar homes and stuff like that. And so our thought was like, we were on the lower end side of Applewood, the lower end side of Applewood.
Sure.
There's a big market for people who can't quite get in the expensive side, but still want to be in Applewood. And so we were able to kind of play on that too, like just the desirability of Applewood. And then there's kind of a unique price point that you can hit for the more cost-effective version of Applewood.
No, I think that's a really smart strategic way to do it. And it's definitely paid dividends. And I really want to compliment you guys, and I want our audience to listen to, your first flip, making $60,000, I'm a sports guy. So to me, that's like a solid double rounding second. You're right. Most people that we hear, they're like, I'd rather just learn and not lose money and I'd be okay. And we try not to, have people go down that road to start. That's kind of like your worst, oh shit scenario. But you guys did phenomenal out of the gate, which is really exciting. You did it in under 4 months, which is really good for your first flip. I'd love to maybe hear a little bit more about the design side of things, because what I loved seeing that the product, and actually in the show notes, we'll actually post like the befores and the afters, because I loved what you guys did from a design perspective. So talk a little bit about maybe the rehab process, how you were able to use the elevation fixture and finish package as your starting point, but then you guys put a lot of your unique touches, and now you have your own like brand and your own stamp, and then you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I love how you guys did that, because some people get so focused, they're like, what if I don't like this faucet? I'm like, that's fine. Like, put your own damn faucet in there. Just don't put a $700 faucet when you need a $250 faucet. So maybe just talk about the design element. I think your spouses had some input in there, if I remember right, and a little bit about the design side.
Yeah, my wife Alex does all the designing of the flips. That was her first. I trusted her that she could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I had we redid like our bathroom as like a test run of like, okay, like here's like $5,000 and like let's see what happens. And Jordan did give us the list of all the elevation selections list.
Mm-hmm.
And she went through and just basically, kind of made it up as she went, Pinterest, and then adding everything to a board, and then kind of looking at like what do we want to do here from an aesthetic perspective. We definitely had more guardrails on. We're like, all the trim, all the walls is going to be white.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing anything funky.
Yeah.
We tried to minimize the complexity as much as possible, but also let her do her thing in certain areas. And I'm a firm believer that like your saving grace is good design every time.
Yeah.
You have good design. The thing is that there's a lot of stuff that looks the same out there right now. And, we go in and I'm like, well, it looks good in the pictures. And then you get in there and you're like, well, this is just all stuff from Home Depot, which isn't necessarily bad,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks like the one right here and right here and right here.
Yes.
So if our buyer is someone that is looking for something a little special,
Mm-hmm.
and we can create a moment in each bathroom, in the kitchen, that when they walk in, they say, I haven't seen anything like this. When they're looking through stuff in their showings, it feels different when they're in there. To me, that is something that could compel someone to want to buy, could compel a competition in terms of offers and stuff. So, the design element has been huge. At this stage, like you said, you don't want to buy a $700 faucet. So where is that sweet spot
Mm-hmm.
between, we don't want it to just be a Home Depot special, but we also want it to look really nice, and we don't want to go $100K over our freaking budget.
Right. Well said.
So, that's where, as the leaders, you got to strike that balance, and it's not always easy because, competing, she wants everything to be top of the top.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, honey, but like, what can we dial back?
Right. Smart.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose what you want to spend that money on. And designers in general have a very high end taste. They have their vision, they have their goal. And then on the flip side, we're looking at the numbers and trying to like figure out what's realistic. They're looking at the return on investment, right? Like,
Smart.
if I buy a $700 faucet, am I going to be able to sell this house for $500 more than buying the $250 faucet? And the odds are no.
Right.
So that's kind of a conversation you have to have in your head throughout the project, but then also understand, like Chris said, the design sells the house. And so being too far down like the budget train will kind of enable you a little bit on the sales side of it, just because it's not going to turn out as nice. And so it's a fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well said.
Dealing with hard money lenders is the biggest headache real estate investors have. I thought that's just how hard money had to be until I met Backflip. Backflip is changing the lending game by actually making loans stress-free. And I know this firsthand because I personally use them for my own deals. Let me tell you, their free app makes real estate investing effortless. With just a few taps, I can apply for loans tailored exactly to my needs, whether it's low interest rates, high leverage, or even deferred payments. The best part, I can secure financing in less than 2 weeks, making it easier to scale my business and close more profitable deals. But it doesn't stop there. Backflip instantly provides all the data I need to estimate profits, including a curated list of high-quality comps, saving me hours of work. Unlike other lenders who disappear after funding, Backflip is a true partner for elevation. Their team is always just a call away and ready to answer any questions and offer support. With Backflip, you get the data and the cash you need to jump on good investments quickly and with confidence. Click the link in the show notes to download the free app. Now let's get back to the show.
So Jordan, you just said something that was super impactful, and both of you guys agreed, which is, and it's something that we try to teach, that you're right. You want the nicest design possible. You want some unique features to your home, because I think we will slowly tip back to it being a seller's market. People will have multiple offers. They'll see multiple houses. And if you go in and you see 5 Home Depot specials, there's nothing that sticks out. And so with your design, I think you use some really cool dark accent colors on your walls and some things that were super cost efficient, but I think you're going to make people, really remember your house, but not going over the edge. Because you're right, you're not going to get that return on investment. And so you can still have great design and great taste, but not just flush your profit down the toilet. So you guys really did, especially for your first one out of the gate, like that's really, really good. We have some clients that You're right. People have very expensive taste, but they're selling a $500,000 to $700,000 home, but they're doing their own stuff, but they live in a $1.5 million house. Like, it just doesn't translate.
I'll give a little secret tip to the listeners. Etsy has custom light fixture creators that make stuff that you will never see at Home Depot. That is really cool, and
That's cool.
is the same price or cheaper than Home Depot a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be coming from Poland, so you got to order it a month ahead of time.
Right.
But that's one way that we source. So Etsy has things that are handmade that
Cool.
you just simply will not see at a major retailer. So it's sort of your guarantee of like, okay, I know no one else is going to have this.
Nice.
And it doesn't cost that much more. You just have to plan a little bit farther ahead. But that's one way to set yourself apart, not spend any more money.
Yeah.
I think you can also add unique touches too. So like, the Applewood project for us was a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom. And then there was kind of an unfinished space that we wound up finishing to kind of create a bonus room. And we're trying to decide what to do with it. Do you make it an office? Do you call it a 6th unconforming bedroom? What we decided to do is make it a theater room. So we just took some cedar trim, we tacked it to the wall, we painted the inside white and the rest of the room black.
Yep.
Super, super cheap. But then like from a showing perspective, people walk in and be like, wow, this is a 5-bedroom house and it has a theater room.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be used as a theater room or if it's going to be used as storage, but for staging purposes, it worked out awesome because people kind of came around the corner like, holy crap, there's this extra awesome room here that none of these other houses have. And it cost us no extra money, but we were able to sell our house with a theater.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's a cool point too, that I think our listeners need to key in on, which is you're looking at your buyer demographic, and typically, families are slowly shrinking in size over time. People don't have 3, 4, or 5 kids where you would need a 6th bedroom, especially in that size home. They'd buy a significantly larger home. So yeah, that's the great play. Like, I would almost argue a 6th bedroom wouldn't have really given you much more value, and that wouldn't have stuck out, but your theater stuck out. You probably got great feedback in your showing notes and stuff. So yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah. And like you said, the demographic buying that house, odds are they don't have 5 rooms filled. So they're going to use one of those bedrooms with the window as an office anyway. So you don't need the extra office. And so like, how can you make this random room in the corner stand out more than it would just being a random room in the corner? And so the theater was kind of a good option there. There's other stuff you can do, but that felt like a good one for that house.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, that's great. Well, and what I'd love to get into now, because you guys have really taken a great first step. I mean, most people, again, don't do well on their first one, or they get discouraged or whatever. So maybe let's fast forward to what you guys are doing now, and maybe let's talk about together what you guys are doing, because you've formed this great partnership, but then you're also doing certain things separately. So you're kind of have the best of both worlds. So maybe whoever wants to kick it off of like what you guys are doing now, and then you can each take a turn of what your solo stuff is.
Yeah. So we did the one last year, August of this year. I kind of made the decision. I had a son in May.
Right.
So I had a couple months off of work there. And so towards the end of my month off, I kind of started looking at wholesale lists and that kind of thing, and kind of made the decision I wanted to get a couple more flips under my belt here the rest of this year and kind of see where that goes. And so I ended up buying a property in Lakewood, a property in Aurora, a property in Arvada, and then we teamed up on one in Golden.
Wow.
3 of those are very significant remodels, kind of like the Golden flip, and then the one in Aurora is a little townhome. I wanted to try to kind of the wholesale route and just kind of see what that world looked like. It wound up being super easy. It's sitting on the market longer than I'd like. But like the learning lesson from that is like, not every flip has to be this giant remodel. It can be a pretty quick turn and burn. And so I kind of wanted that experience. We'll see what I make on it. But yeah, so overall this year I've had 4 going, 3 active still. 1 just closed 2 weeks ago.
That's great.
Didn't make as much money on it as I wanted to, but at the same point, like, that was my first solo deal. I'm going to school for it. And I got paid a little bit for it. I didn't have to pay a tuition. I got paid a little bit. And
smart.
It was good for me, like me being on the construction side, knowing how a project should be project managed. It's really good for me to kind of feel out like how a project actually goes versus when we're running it ourselves. I wound up hiring a project manager to kind of run them because I still have my 9-to-5 job and the kids at home. So it's interesting to kind of take that high level role on it and then kind of see how it played out and then be able to apply my learning lessons to future ones. And so I feel like I've been able to do that on the last 2. We're kind of working on just learning lessons from the first one. But yeah, so after the Golden one last year, done 4 this year, and then we'll see kind of where it goes next year.
Yeah, and what I like about that, before we jump to you, Chris, is that out of anybody, Jordan, you're the perfect avatar of a person who would have potentially done it himself. Like, you have this skill set where you could have rolled up your sleeves and you could have been on your hands and knees laying tile. You could have then tapped into the next level up of your group of subs and still kind of manage it. But it's cool that you truly were able to oversee that and you were able to quickly scale. And so people are like, well, wait, I'm going to make 10 grand less on a flip. Yeah, but they can't do 4 in a year. So it's cool that you've, like learned that and seen that and put it into practice. Again, most people don't do that. They're like, oh, I want to do this myself. And that's what I say is like, you can't scale by doing shit yourself from a construction standpoint.
It's like you make $9,000 less on one deal, but then you miss out on the other 4 or 5 deals where you could have been making $50,000.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's a fine balance in that. And, my logic was like, I want to maintain my 9 to 5 job until I feel comfortable enough to jump. And so, like, with it being a side hustle, I had no other option than to hire somebody in. So it was either, $9,000 less or no deal at all. And so
that's good perspective.
It definitely worked out good. Learning lessons in that, like hiring someone and managing them and like working within their skill sets versus my own skill sets. Like we'll kind of see what processes I set in place to kind of control that a little better.
Yeah.
But definitely like that's how it had to be. And I'll probably continue doing that moving forward because, I want to be doing 10 deals a year, not 2.
Right. No, that's well said. Love it. Chris, tell us a little bit about kind of what you've got going on currently and how you've evolved. Definitely wholesaling in addition to flipping too.
So after the one I did with Jordan, we bought a house in Morrison.
Okay.
It had like a finished detached garage. Went super well. We made just under 200,000 on that.
Nice.
So it was
huge.
a great deal. It was sitting on the market for a million years and just went in like 150 under asking, settled at 100 under asking.
And that was on market.
On market.
Nice.
So I got a commission. Oh no, I gave up my commission on that.
Okay. But I do want people to listen to that. Like people are always like, well, what if I do a low ball offer or whatever? Dude, stuff's sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4 months. So to go in at 150 and get it for 100, like that's what people need to do. So I want people to listen.
For sure.
Well done.
Yeah, I mean, on market deals are there. And that's where it's like what I was saying about if the comps are weird and you can see through it and you can see the upside of it, that there's something there. Plus, like I bought one in Applewood that is currently ongoing as well. Because I'm a realtor, I don't want to go out and show buyers houses. It's just for mine. But, it was a $900,000 purchase. I got 3% commission or whatever it was, 2.5. So, I'm putting 20,000+ in my bank account day one.
That's nice.
Which is just nice to just kind of, okay, I got a little pad in my personal money. Did a condo. We made 30,000 on that.
Love it.
We did a wholesale in Arrowhead Golf Course, $25K rehab budget on it. We bought it for $855, sold it for $1,050,000. We made like $85,000 on it. That was great.
Nice.
Did one in Lakewood, full rehab. Again, like each of these houses that I just mentioned, except for the condo, because condos are all the same.
Yeah.
They all had some special elements about them that I felt like set them apart from just any old house that's in that neighborhood.
Right.
Cool lot, good view, interesting layout, something.
Cool.
Lakewood was another one I did. And these have all been relatively quick, like, 5 months max in and out.
Nice.
The wholesales are like 3 months in and out. Lakewood flip, I think that was about 65,000 or something. Jordan helped me with some private money on that.
Okay.
And then the most recent, the really cool deal we just did is a $3 million house in Golden.
Really?
So
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah. So it's 8,500 square feet. Huge.
Wow.
Multiple masters on different levels, pool, all this stuff. So this was a lead that we paid $250 for that came through.
No way.
For a pay per lead.
Wow.
Now I've spent thousands of dollars that have led to nothing.
Sure.
As you know.
Yep.
But it came through. My sales guy sent it to me and said, "There's probably nothing here. It's like a crazy amount of money." But I went over there and I was like, this house is actually in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And it's very unique. Craftsman style, wood built-ins everywhere.
Cool.
Built in 2014.
Oh yeah, that's newer.
And the woman I was talking to, I was looking at comps and I was like, it's just, again, it's unclear where this one falls. It seems like it's maybe like 3 million, but geez, if it goes for 2.6, I'm in trouble, right?
Right.
Because when you're playing in that price range, when you drop the price, you got to drop it 100K.
Yeah, 6 figures.
Or it does, and probably even more than 100K at a $3 million price point.
Right.
She said somewhere between 1.8 and 2.2. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty big range on what you want.
Right.
She tells me she has someone that offered her 2.4. And I'm like, I told her I would match it. And I literally did not sleep a wink that whole night. I was just awake and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a horrible decision.
Right.
And thank God, because that ultimately ended up being what the spread was, because I said, I can't do it. 2.2 would be my max.
Yep.
She writes me and I use some sales technique on her where I pulled away and just said, sounds like you got it figured out.
Yep.
Good luck to you. She came back and said, well, I never even heard from him again. I'll do it for 2.2. So now I got to come up with all this money.
Yeah.
I increased the price by $45K and wrote that I would get a $45K commission. So
Okay.
$45K in the pocket.
Sweet.
Okay, that feels good.
Yep.
And I'm sorry if this is too much on the
No,
one
no.
deal, but it's
No,
just
you're
an
good.
exciting one
It's
to
interesting.
be a part of. Jordan came out. I had everybody come out to it.
Cool.
And I had to bring the hard money lenders. Indicate Capital is who we use.
Okay.
I use several now, but I had to have the owner come out because he was like, "What the hell are you doing, bro?"
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's a big
what is
number
this?
for a hard money lender.
Yeah. And what is this house?
Yeah.
You know? And so he came out and I just talked to him about what the plan was. And, you know, he was a little doubtful, but he's like, you know, we'll give you 85% leverage on it. I'm like, okay, that'll save me, you know, another 150 grand because it's such a big purchase.
Yep.
Put 100 into it, staged it with the Den staging. They're
Okay.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Amanda over there, she's great. And we spent like 20 grand just having guys literally going around touching up all the wood built-ins. I mean, for
Yes.
2 weeks, 6 guys.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
patching. You know, they had dogs clawing on the doors, so it was just chewed up, but the bones were there and I
Yeah.
didn't have to tear anything out.
That's awesome.
So it was just, you know, new carpet, new paint and all that. So listed it for $3 million, went under contract. Buyer literally said, I want you to replace every single mechanical in the whole house. And I'm like, what kind of what? Even the stuff that was working,
Okay.
I want you to replace everything. And I'm like, okay, obviously not.
Yeah.
Dumped him. And then we got someone for 2.85, 50K off. We ended up selling it at 2.8 and we made 225,000 on that one.
Nice work.
So just
That's huge.
such a blessing.
Yeah.
And a learning lesson of like that fear is a compass thing. It's just like,
Yep.
you know what? I can do this.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to be Elon Musk to go and be successful in business.
Right. Well
You
said.
got to have grit.
Mhm.
You got to be savvy. And also the big thing that I'm really happy we got to, and then I'll shut up because I know I've been talking for a while now, is
Oh, you're good.
I love this concept of love the one you're with.
Mhm.
And that's me and Jordan's partnership of like, I sat next to Jordan and I was like, all right, let's do something, you and me. You
Yeah.
know, like you seem like someone, if I jive with you, then let's do this.
Mhm.
I toured a house when I was looking at comps for that mansion. The listing agent, she showed up. And I was like, oh shit, listing agent's here. Not used to that.
Yeah. True. Doesn't
And I
happen
just
often.
said, I'm thinking about doing this house. You know, would you help me if I gave you like 1%? She was like, yeah, love the one you're with.
Mhm.
She, knowing that neighborhood really well, helped give me the guidance so I could price correctly, do the
Yeah.
correct amount of repairs, all that. So like the team and the network you surround yourself with is that protective barrier to not losing a bunch of money.
Well said.
You know, it's like, and I just know I don't know everything.
Mhm.
I know that on my own, I will probably make crucial mistakes. So having checks and balances by having people around me and giving them a little piece of the pie
Yep.
ultimately is what helps me to feel good about making big, scary decisions like buying a $2.2 million
Yeah.
house
That's a big one.
and not knowing if it's going to work out.
Yeah. That's a
Two
big one.
big lessons.
So, Chris, that was such a cool story. And what I love to hear about it, and Jordan kind of brought it up off camera, which is that you had the guts to not only try something super different price points, but also ask for help, which was really, really cool. So I want to commend you about that. Something else that I'd love to hear from you guys, and whether it's separately or your joint deals, how are you financing things? What are you doing for hard money, private money, family money, cash? Like, talk a little bit about the from a financing perspective.
So for the majority hard money loan,
Mm-hmm.
getting somewhere between 80 and 90%, we use Indicate Capital or Merchant's Mortgage.
Okay.
Merchant's Mortgage is a little bit cheaper,
Cool.
but more paperwork.
Okay.
And then in terms of the gap, meaning whatever the down payment is, I use different family members' HELOCs. I've had people take out home equity lines of credit, and then I borrow their money and I give them a return on it.
Okay.
So I don't come out of pocket. I mean, sometimes we will now because we're a little bit more, we have enough cash to be doing that on our own.
Nice.
But yeah, using OPM, other people's money, you know,
Right.
you don't have to have the money yourself. Like it is truly not a barrier if you can just like make a couple calls and get creative.
Yeah.
You know, you've got an auntie that has 200K in her house and,
Yep.
you know, who might be on a fixed income
Mhm.
and you can really help family members. I mean, when I write at the end of a project, a 5K check to my auntie,
Yeah.
that's huge for her.
That's awesome.
That money isn't doing anything other than it's a credit card waiting to be used. So that's how we've been doing it. I think you're
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah. Tell me about your stuff, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm very similar. On the hard money side, same thing as Chris. I've only used Indicate to this point,
Okay.
mainly because I've I have my 9 to 5. I'm very busy, and I
Yep.
like the idea of a little less paperwork, a little less formal.
Yep.
So they've been really easy to work with. We'll see kind of who I use moving forward. I like Indicate, but I'd love to kind of mix and match a little bit there on the hard money side. Anywhere from, I think all my deals are at 85% leverage on their end. And then on my end, between the 4 deals, like good amount of money has to come out of pocket for it.
Yeah.
So I've been using my HELOC that I have in my house as well as family members' HELOCs.
Awesome.
That's been going really good. Like I talked my grandma into opening up a HELOC on her house, and she's been very gracious. Like, use it however you need it. I don't want to make any money off of you. I'm still paying her 12%, but we're going to kind of work out a deal where maybe her profit goes into my kids' college fund. And
that's
work
cool.
Towards that. And so kind of mutually beneficial there. She feels good about it. She opens up some capital for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely gone the HELOC route. I haven't had to pay any money out of my personal pocket outside of the equity in my house. And
love it.
The nice part about that is you can just turn and burn it. I don't want to use my HELOC for a long-term investment and tie up that money for a really long time. So if I can use that over and over and over again on flips and then take the profit I make from flips into the long-term investing strategies, I think that's kind of my goal with it. But yeah, lots of HELOC, lots of hard money lender.
Well, the good news is we've got some new hard money lending contacts that I'll hook you guys up with that we've been super happy because we've then tried to scale, and because of where the price points have gone over the last 4 or 5 years, we have internal capital that we've used. But then I'm like, we don't want to turn down good deals. So we've got good hard money options that we'll send you guys. And the other thing is I have not done it myself. And it's been funny, like I'm in the business. I used to work in finance before this. And so I have old 401ks from my 2 corporate jobs. And that's luckily been doing well because the market's been doing well. But in general, I know I can kind of supercharge my personal retirement. So we're in the process of converting to self-directed 401ks. And to your point, like you can tap people's HELOCs, you can then start to tap people's retirement accounts. And then it becomes, to your point, Jordan, like super life-changing that if somebody either has a down year or they're used to just making their 7%, and you can have them make 12% on their money, and that supercharges their retirement. So it'll be a really cool change. We're fans of like doing it on ourselves first, but then I'll connect you guys with the partners that we're going to use to do that. And then it's just going out and it's like, yeah, HELOC is, tranche 1 for financing, 401k self-directed is tranche 2, and it's a win-win. So
that's huge.
That's really cool. I love to hear like the financial side of things because that's super important for our audience to really wrap their arms around. It's been so fun having you guys. I want to be sensitive to your time, but I've got like one last thing and I would love to have each one of you touch on, which is this will drop probably right between either end of 2024, early 2025. Where do you guys want to go with this? Like it sounds like you're checking your box from a mission and a vision standpoint, which is really cool. You've got some partnership things going. You've got some independent things. Maybe each one of you take turns of like where you guys want to go here in 2025. And it's just been fun to be around you guys and however we can support you.
For me, having the construction background and like I enjoy construction, I'm going to really enjoy doing it for myself. And so like the flipping thing kind of feels like a passion project in some sense. It's kind of a means to an end. I want to make money to kind of invest in more long-term assets, the passive income, get some stuff rolling that way just for long-term financial well-being kind of deal. But I like the idea of kind of continuing on with flips. I think this next 2025, I'm going to focus really hard on flips just to kind of generate income and then see where that all goes. I want to leave my doors open as far as other opportunities go. But focus on flips. I want to start looking at getting my contractor's license and my real estate license just to kind of open as many doors as I possibly can. I think those will both be huge. And then, just kind of see where it goes. I'd love to have maybe 3 kind of big remodels next year and then a bunch of wholesale kind of in between. I have kind of a number in my head of what I want to make just to kind of cover me and my family. But then anything above and beyond that, like I'd love to kind of see how I can use that money wisely, not necessarily use the profits from flips to invest in other flips, but invest in more of the passive income opportunities. Because, flipping is a job still. It's not like the passive long-term rentals and Airbnbs and stuff like that. And so, focus on the flips to create income to invest in other opportunities, and who knows what those opportunities are going to be. I'm going to kind of leave it open and just try to build my toolbox as much as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. Cool. Chris?
For me, I would say we want to acquire some mentorship to help us to dial in our processes so that we can, as good as we are at the wholesaling sales process side, where it's like a science, we need to get the science of flipping down. And so that's a big for my wholesaling company that we want to do. And then in terms of flipping, like what I realized is whether you make 60 or 200, like they take 3 to 5 or 6 months, right? Like, and they're all hard in terms of like complexity. And so it's like, I've just decided if we're going to flip it, I need to be making at least 100 grand or else I'm not going to do it. I'm
Okay.
going to wholesale it out.
Yeah, I like that.
And the caveat is the wholesales. And for the listeners, like wholesale means something that is in good shape that you only need to put, maybe 40,000 or less in. Like, and ideally you want to be at 20, right? 25.
Yep.
Like paint it, carpet, clean it up, stage it.
Yep.
We want to do as many as those as we possibly can.
Yeah. Volume.
Even that mansion was like a wholesale.
Yeah.
The one that we did Narrowhead, that was a wholesale, it was $85,000. Like there's great money there. And I'm making more than the ones where I'm spending months and it's way complex and I'm tearing everything out. So I want to be able to design things that are fun. The Applewood flip we have right now, where we put in a cold plunge, a built-in sauna.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's going to have some really, really cool elements to it. And we want to see a big upside on those. So fewer projects, higher profitability, and then a lot of small churn and burns where the complexity is really low.
Okay.
And that's our goal. That's going into next year. And I'm not big on like setting like a number of flips I want to do.
Okay.
Because I don't want to chase.
Yeah.
I want to
Good point.
capitalize. I want to maximize every single good opportunity. And so that's my goal is I want to make sure I am in a place process wise to capitalize on every great opportunity that comes across.
And I like the way that you said that. It's something I really want you guys to listen to at home. And we're kind of doing the same thing where we are, instead of chasing a certain number of flips, I've worked with my CFO and we're reverse engineering, because to me that almost is like top down goal setting and budgeting of X number of flips, Y number of wholesales, Z number of brokerage transactions or whatever. But you're right, if it sucks up all your capital or all your time, but you have a bunch of these singles or wholesales, as you put it, we want to maintain the best possible profit margin, move our money as fast as possible. And his kind of cheesy example is, okay, let's say we want to do $1 million in net. Is that one unbelievable project, to your point of maybe buying it for $2 million and selling it for $4 million and netting $1 million? Or is it, bad example, but $110,000 deals?
Right.
We don't want to do that. But like somewhere in the middle. So you're right. I think that's a smart way to look at it. And that's the way we're kind of recalibrating our stuff for this year too. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate you guys being on the show. How can people get a hold of you guys? Give us a little bit of contact info. We'll definitely put it in the show notes, but how can people reach out to you?
So yeah, you could reach out to me at chris@indiehomeoffer.com. And I don't really do social media, so I'm a little hard to get a hold of. But send me an email if you want.
Okay.
But yeah,
cool.
That's where you can find me.
Yeah, there you go.
You can find me at home taking care of my 2 babies.
There you go. Okay, just knock on the door. Okay, what about you, Jordan? How can people get a hold of you?
I was joking with Chris on the way over. I don't have a LinkedIn. I'm in the process of changing my email, and I don't check social media. So check me out on LinkedIn. I'll have that live within a week.
We have your crazy arbitrary deadline that we just put on the podcast. So.
Right.
No, that's perfect. Well, guys, it's been so fun having you guys. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to do more stuff with you guys in the future. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. If you found value in our insights and stories, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media and be sure to share this episode with friends or colleagues who might benefit. Your feedback and reviews help us grow and reach more listeners like you. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Thanks again to the Elevation Academy for sponsoring today's show. If you're interested in learning more, click the link in the show notes below. And remember, every property tells a story, every deal brings a lesson. Keep reaching for those goals, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening and watching Raising the Flipping Bar. Just a basic overall disclaimer is that A, this is not legal advice. B, this is not tax advice. C, this is not financial advice. I hope you get the gist, but I'm obviously not a lawyer, not a CPA. Hell, I'm not even a real estate agent, actually. But in general, we hope you get a ton of value out of this, but there is a bit of a disclaimer. Please consult a professional if you have any questions whatsoever. Thanks.